Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this to order. Thank you for joining us on this sunny May evening for our regular business meeting. If you need help finding space, there's people kind of in the back to help kind of get everyone situated. I know we have a full house. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few thoughts and reminders. We want our boardroom to be a welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. As this is a business meeting, we do expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. We would ask that you do not interrupt the meeting, and if there is an immediate need that you have, such as an audio concern or question, please move to the back and let one of our staff members know. We have staff in the back there and then along the side. As a reminder, there is a designated space for any video recording and/or media. This does not include pictures for the awards. We will now get started with our business meeting and the items on our agenda. So starting with roll call, Director Barrows. Here. Director Decker. Here. Director Smith. Here. And Director Zaval. Here. And I'm also here. We will turn it over to Dr. Snell for the superintendent report.
Thank you, Director Sproul, and welcome everyone. We start our meetings with the national anthem, so if you would please rise if you're able and willing. And today it's performed by the choir at Fort Vancouver High School under the direction of Mr. Boughton.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, of the brave.
Thanks for your patience. We also have a performance by the choir at the end of the board meeting. And if you're not able to stay for the entire meeting, these are recorded. And so it's a great performance by the same group. It's a tradition that we've started this year that I really enjoy. So thank you. And if you're able to watch it later, I think you'll appreciate it. So I do have a superintendent's report this evening, and we have a lot of people that we're recognizing tonight. So thank you for being here for that. And I'll try to be as quick as I can through the superintendent report because I know that some of you are having to stand in the back. Just a few updates. Yesterday we celebrated third grade culture parade, and I know our board was able to attend that. This was the first year that we separated it from Evergreen School District. In the past we combined, and unfortunately we had so many schools between the two districts that not everyone was able to attend, so it was like a lottery. And so we worked with the National Park Service and they agreed to do 2 dates, which was great. And so all of our schools are able to participate in both districts. There's a couple of pictures there, and I know our district social media has put out some great things as the kids have a wonderful time and the Park Service does a great job of supporting us. We also have a really important event this week. Our annual Foundation for Vancouver Public Schools luncheon is on Thursday. I think I was counting like 35 years that they've been a part of supporting our district, a lot of luncheons, a lot of impact on behalf of our community for our students and families. And so really appreciate their work. I would like to turn it over to our staff advisory members. Daniel Connor and Natalie Haima are here to give an update on what the staff advisory has been doing.
Good evening, Dr. Snell, school board members, and community members. My name is Natalie Haima, and I'm a language access specialist with the district. I have had the privilege to serve on the staff advisory for the past 2 years, and I'm now concluding my second year. I'm joined this evening by Danielle Connor.
Hi there. I am a paraeducator in a structured communication program over at Roosevelt Elementary, and I'm also concluding my second year on the staff advisory. We're honored to be here this evening to share about the work of our staff advisory. So we have met on March 27th and April 24th and kind of focused on 4 main things: supporting student behavior, staff wellness. We reviewed our bylaws and the next steps for staff advisory, and then obviously had discussion about the budget reduction and all of the staff adjustments that are going on. At our March 27th meeting, we spent a lot of time learning about positive support for student behaviors. Lauren Osterholt was able to present for us, and she was fantastic, gave us a lot of great information. Lauren provided data and examples on how she's providing staff training and effective classroom practices to increase student engagement, while also decreasing behaviors. Her presentation was encouraging, and we're hopeful that she'll be able to present at other schools. Jeff Fish, our Director of HR, returned and shared updates about our wellness initiatives to support staff. There's a review on our digital platform, Vern, to support workforce wellness. And we reviewed our bylaws and discussed the role of our co-chair on our staff advisory. We need to elect 2 new co-chairs for the next year, and we're also trying to recruit new members to the staff advisory. We also discussed the reductions in force, and Dr. Snell dedicated time to answer all of our questions, and we had a lot, and provided us as much information as he could. This is a time well spent, and we were able to provide transparent information and then provide explanations back to our buildings and our staff.
At our April 24th meeting, we revisited and finalized our bylaws. There were a few edits, such as adding a note taker, nominating new members, and ensuring that our co-chairs came from different employee groups. So for example, a co-chair from certificated and also potentially ProTech, or another one of our employee groups. And we also discussed inviting prospective members. And so in order to do that, we decided that we would have them come to our May meeting, invite people and show them what it's like to be on staff advisory and what it's all about. We also provided ballots to vote for new co-chairs. We have 3 nominees, and so we'll be finding out who the new co-chairs are at our next meeting. We returned to the discussion of the 24-25 budget. Dr. Snell again dedicated a portion of our meeting to answer questions and listen to our concerns. He provided as much information and transparency as was possible, and the staff advisory has been very appreciative of Dr. Snell's contributions to these difficult conversations. While the advisory team has shared heartfelt emotions regarding the impact of the budget cuts, and it's been difficult, it has also provided an avenue for open dialogue. I, for one, am very appreciative of the leadership that Dr. Snell has given to us during this difficult time. Specifically, he provided a budget timeline to show how we have arrived at where we are today, starting with discussions last fall at school board meetings. He described the different scenarios affecting the recall pool and the unassigned pool so that we were better able to sort of understand the process of how people would be moving between those 2 areas, and really talking about the difficulty of forecasting for classes and staffing those, and just sort of the difficulty in the entire process. He also provided the overall FTE reductions, percentage of existing staff in different categories, and the estimated projected savings. We discussed the frustration that was felt with the lack of funding equity from the state. We also discussed how we could actively advocate and lobby for public education at the state level.
Our next meeting is coming up at the end of this month, and hopefully all of us will be able to welcome some new members to the staff advisory. And we will also be able to announce our co-chairs for next year.
Our personal experiences with staff advisory, for me, I found it to be a very positive experience. The advisory provided the ability to take a pulse on the perspective of members across the district and open dialogue with our leadership to support the strategic plan. To be in a space where our contributions are informing the decision-making process has been a really valuable use of my time. Dr. Snell and in turn the school board have been informed directly by our group with important decisions, and most recently, obviously, the budget reduction. I've been impressed with the dedication of the people on the staff advisory, the willingness for people to step up, serve and work collectively to enhance student outcomes for our students here in Vancouver.
Right. I joined the staff advisory, mostly because I wanted to connect with other staff members around the district that I wouldn't normally get to see and interact. I come with a unique perspective in that I have been a student here, K through 12, graduated and then came back, worked as a paraeducator, went on to teach for 22 years, and now I am back as a paraeducator. So doing the whole circle. So I had a unique perspective. It was really nice to join other staff members and people from different buildings, different labor groups, sharing, meeting together for a common purpose, which is to support our district. We had open and honest discussions. And not only did we feel like our feelings were heard, our opinions really mattered. And that's been really important for us.
Are there any comments or questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. So I wanted to give just a short strategic planning update. We do this at every regular board meeting and try to have a regular cadence of coming back to the goals that we set so that we can share with our community the progress that we're making and really hold ourselves accountable to the plan. Our mission statement, inspiring learning, growing community, each student every day, is much shorter than our previous mission statement, and we hope that it resonates with our community and people remember it as they can connect to our larger work. We have a vision of a graduate with attributes of what we want all of our students to experience and gain as a part of their process here, and those are supported by 3 goal areas of student-centered staff, community, and experience. Each time when you come into a regular board meeting, there's an opportunity to pick up a 1-pager that is a quick update or scan the QR code to go to the website that has the update. Today is an update related to our Panorama survey in the spring. So Panorama is the vehicle that we use to assess how students are feeling about their experience at school. Some students don't necessarily like the Panorama survey. Curious about all the students here and if you took it and how you felt about it. But we do look at it both from a student advisory lens and then as a district lens to just see, are we making progress in terms of the experiences that students are having and what are they telling us about that they want more of or less of? The data that's reflected in this 1-pager today is looking at elementary schools as the top graph and looking at some specific categories within that. I know it's really small up here, so if you do want a 1-pager, scan it, you can see that. And then at the secondary level, it's about just managing emotions and how students are feeling about when they get big emotions, what are they doing with it? And are they feeling more supported in that in our school settings? So we keep coming back to these each regular meeting. And then if you want more depth of where we're at with the strategic plan, the study sessions, which are virtually held and usually a couple hours long, go into the goals where we're making progress, opportunities for the future. So I'll pause on the strategic plan update and see if there are any questions or comments from the directors. Okay, we've been giving this budget development process a lot, so bear with me if you're a frequent attender of our board meetings. We have looked at the 24-25 budget development process for a long time because we understood some of the challenges that we're going to be presented to us as we move forward with this development. Some of the big challenges were related to our increased costs, both on the staffing side and then the non-staffing side, where things have just over the last several years escalated either due through inflation or also due to student need and how to meet that need. And then finally, overall, in our big picture, student enrollment is a definite driver of school budgets in our state. And we've been flat the last couple of years, but overall, since 2018, we have a decline in the number of students that we're serving. And we continue to graduate larger classes than our incoming kindergarten students. And so that's a problem over time when we're so based on student enrollment. Part of the gap in costs is related to the staffing and the funding that's provided by our state. The blue dots are the number of staff that are funded. And so we're at about 81% of our staff is funded through the state, and then the other 19% of our staff, we need to figure out how to fund in a different way. And that trend has been slipping in a way that we don't want it to go over time. And then the other plot is our basic ed staff, their salaries and benefits, and what percentage of that is funded by the state. And you can see that gap continues to widen, and it's part of the contributing factor why our district and many other districts across the state and in Oregon are struggling with funding and sustainability of the models that we currently have. So overall, those gaps in the staffing costs are about 35% for the cost per staff member for each staff member, and then we're approaching a 20% gap in the number of staff members. So sometimes that gap widens in ways that you wouldn't expect. So for example, each year the state approves a cost of living adjustment. It's now called the implicit price deflator. That was approved at 3.7%. So what that means is the state is pushing out a 3.7% raise in the funding that they provide for the basic ed staff. The challenge with that from a district standpoint is we want to pass along that to all of our staff because they're all represented by the same labor groups. And because the state is only funding 65%, then somehow on this end, the board needs to figure out how to make up that gap. As we moved into this budget crisis, we had salary openers with 3 of our 4 labor groups. All of those groups have agreed to just that IPD factors only. And so you're going to see that reflected in some of the budget savings that we're able to achieve and positions that we're able to save in partnership with those labor groups. Our teachers union is in a full open contract, so it's much more challenging to just identify the cost of that contract with just a salary opener. So we're still determining what the cost of that contract will be as we negotiate with that labor group. So as a school board, when you're faced with a budget challenge like this, there are really 3 main options that you have as a board to figure out how to balance your budget. The first one is to try to lower your costs. That is a part of our collective bargaining agreement, so it's not something that this board can just say we're going to lower costs. We need to work in partnership, and this board has also communicated that they feel strongly that the contracts that they've approved for the staff are reflective of what staff deserve to receive in terms of the work that they're doing. So that option is really challenging for a board. The second option is to delay reductions as long as possible, and that's the option that this board has exercised the last several years. They have used fund balance or savings to maintain positions instead of reducing those positions. And they also use the federal pandemic relief dollars to fund positions the last couple of years instead of reducing those positions. Unfortunately, as we move into the next year's budget, we can no longer have access to pandemic relief funds, and we've expended our fund balance to the point that we can't continue to use that as a tool. And so that leaves us with the last option of reducing staff, which is a horrible, horrible option, and one that we spent a lot of time in board meetings talking about, and I'll give you kind of the update of where we're at with that plan. So as we went through this, we've tried to be really clear about who gets to make decisions around these things. And ultimately, our school board adopts a budget, and it's my responsibility to use our staff, our labor leaders, everybody in our community to try to develop that budget that's reflective of our community's values and input. There's a lot of different perspectives on what that should look like. And so distilling those into one area is also pretty complex. The challenge that the board identified back in the December meeting was that we needed a reduction in the 8 to 10% range to be sustainable moving forward for next year. As a part of our budget, there are lots of places where there are required items. And so you can't make reductions to insurance coverage or things of that nature that you have to run a district. And so what happens is when you look at that overall budget, it disproportionately hits certain areas of the budget. And so in this reduction, it's disproportionately hitting our staffing. This decision to deploy or to develop a reduction in force program was made on March 12th. And then at our April board meeting, we gave an update. And then today I'm going to give where we're at in the process right now. So what we have been doing is working through that plan that was adopted We've been partnering with our labor leaders to make sure that we're interpreting the contract the same way as we look at how do you deploy a reduction in force. There's a lot of details into that, and we want to make sure that we're consistent and that there's agreement about that. We also distributed the initial basic ed staffing to our schools for next year. That's a process that usually takes 3 or 4 months and can go into the summer when you're not in a reduction in force process. So a huge compliment to our principals and administrative teams and counseling teams to try to predict what our schedules will look like next year, try to predict how many students will actually show, predict the kinds of classes that students want. And so it's a pretty big puzzle of back and forth. And our school teams have tried to build those schedules based on the student forecasting. And then we've been in the process of trying to place staff into those positions. And now we're heading into type of a recall, hopefully, for staff that were noticed that we don't have a position for them. This process is a back and forth process. And so you'll see our program of studies in the largest box there. And then on the right side of the screen are teachers that were displaced that still have a contract for next year. And we have to find the places where they fit based on the needs that the students have and the courses that we need to provide. And so we try to put them back into the schedule. And when we exhaust that and there's not enough people from the reassignment pool, or they don't have the right credentials to teach a class, because in our state you have to be certified to teach certain classes, that's when we go down to the recall pool and we're starting to bring back people who were noticed that they may not have a position. Also this year, in a district our size, typically there's a movement between June and September or August, whenever the school year starts, and we keep some staffing available to deploy when certain classes get large or certain things happen and a class isn't offered or a teacher takes leave or any of those factors that happen in the summer. And we've this year, because of the extraordinary circumstances, just deployed all that staffing already. So there's a risk with that because we don't know exactly how it shows up in the fall. But because of where we're at with the impact to staff, the board felt like it was important to deploy that earlier. So that's also in that program of studies as we work back and forth to try to build the unique schedules of 40+ schools and programs and try to meet everyone's needs with less staff moving forward. So at the March 12th meeting, very difficult to see this here in the audience, this was the reduction in force resolution, and I just want to update you on where we're at. And so each category of that I'm pulling out. The central office administration reduction, the target reduction on that was 22.4% of the workforce for a savings of $3.4 million. What's happened with that one, this is the one where we really can go above the reduction target. The other areas we really should be below unless we come back to the board for an authority to revisit that. And so we were actually able to find more savings in this. So we reduced 21.1 staff members, their positions were eliminated. And then we were able to save 1.4, the equivalent of 1.4 staff members in a salary freeze and salary reduction at this level. This is how that distributed across central office. So our central office is like a representative of our larger district. So we have all of our work groups here. And so at the cabinet level of leadership, we had 2.0 FTE in reductions. And then you can see the other different layers of this to get to the 21.1 positions that were reduced. For our building-based administrative staff, so these are our principals and assistant principals, the reduction target was 12.4% of that work group, which was 9.5 staff positions. This group made a concession around the IPD that I talked about, and because of that 3.7% only raise, we were able to realize 1.0 staff members in savings. And so we achieved the target goals set by the board, but we did so with reducing less people. Our teachers on special assignment are teachers that often support what happens in the classroom and help students and staff move forward. This was our largest group that was reduced because there was a general feeling of we need to prioritize classroom teachers and make sure we have as many classroom teachers as possible to provide the opportunities that students need. And so our reduction target here was 82.6% of the workforce. We actually ended up coming in at 76.9% of this workforce. This is our largest group. This is our largest employee group, our classroom teachers. And so when we're in the business of teaching, this is number one. And this is a huge impact to us. This is 12.5% of the workforce that the target was set. And we actually came in a little less than this. As we did that back and forth between looking at the schedules and trying to predict class sizes, the board met and the budget committee, which Director Sproul and Director Smith sit on, allowed us to release more staff into the secondary pool to try to balance those class sizes and provide as many offerings as possible for our students. The risk here again is that we don't have as many students show up, but the board felt like this was a good risk to take given the circumstances. And so overall, this savings was 15 million instead of the 15.4 million. In our classified ranks, these are our support personnel that perform a lot of different roles in our district. The reduction level of this work group was 12.9%. We came in a little less than that at 12.7%. And then I'd also call your attention to agreements with our two groups, VASP and SEIU, that represent these employees. And the salary of IPD only of the 3.7% raise freed up approximately 12 FTE that were saved and then put back into the program of studies to try to provide opportunities for our students moving forward. So all these plans, when we set it out in March, really appreciate the labor leadership and the input from staff and the community, because it needed to be a back and forth process to try to come to the best outcome possible in a really horrible situation. And I think that the plan that Classified helped us come up with and their ideas really benefited the district moving forward. So can't thank them enough. And they have a really, really difficult job. All of our labor leaders do, because they represent a very diverse set of perspectives about what should be the priorities. And it's a very thankless job. So I want to make sure I'm thanking them. And then finally, we had $5 million targeted for non-staff reductions, and we're confident that we will meet that. A lot of those don't happen necessarily in the same cycle of the contracts of staff members that we need to renew for next year. So this will be an ongoing thing that we try to meet and exceed the $5 million in reduction as we move forward. So one of the questions that the staff advisory helped with is to try to really figure out what the impact of this is. And the hard part of doing that is each school in our district is a little unique. That makes our district special, but it also makes it hard to compare because we have large schools, small schools, we have different schedules within those schools, different programs of studies within those schools. So what we have done is to try to look at it just from a basic ed staffing ratio. So this is the amount of staff that we receive from the state and then push back out to our schools. And you can see the ratio of staff, student to staff member in last year's budget that we were projecting, and then what we're projecting for next year and the change in that. Now, I'm making this like this is not a class size because there's more people that support the basic ed. So it might be at a school that maybe they fund an extra counselor from that. It also is not, each of our teachers has a prep period. And so we don't get like a full teacher when a teacher comes out because they can only maybe teach 5 out of 6 periods in the day. And so the students have to be organized around differently. But the change is something that we can look at. So if you're at Fruit Valley Elementary, you can expect to feel about 1.9 more students per staff member as we move forward into the next school year as a whole. So there's also, this doesn't count our special education staffing. It doesn't count our career and technical education staffing. There's other staffing that's factored in, but this was one of the best ways that we could come up with kind of comparing this current year to what we project it to look like next year. And so what's happening as I wrap up, we are now at the point where we've notified staff that they don't have a position. And so we're starting the recall process to fill those positions, if you can think back to that graphic. We're also in the position of starting to move our classified employees back into the positions. Some of those are in the same positions and some of those are changed positions, and continuing that reassignment process. And then so once we settle our collective bargaining agreements, we will know our staff costs for next year and moving forward. So that's another variable that will be helpful for us as this board looks at enrollment, whatever the legislature does, whatever the financial forecast for the state is, and our costs to build the 25-26 budget. And so I will pause there to see if there are any questions.
So I have a couple questions that I wrote down ahead of time, and you talked about each one of these, but just to pull them out, because it was a lot of information at once. So I'm going to re-ask. So I know that there's a lot of emotion around how reduction in force has been done. And so those are the questions that I have. How do the district reps and the labor leaders partner to determine how the RIF process works?
Yeah, that's a great question, Director Decker. So in our labor agreements, our collective bargaining agreements, there is language about how to implement a reduction in force, and that's approved each time the contract is approved. It's something, though, that you hope that you don't ever have to put into place. And so it's something that we haven't done in a little bit. And then also when it comes up, like it has this year, there might be new leadership from the labor that's elected or appointed, and there might be new leadership from us as well. So there's a process of looking at that language together and sharing how we're interpreting that language to make sure that we can come to some sort of agreement about that before we start doing the process. And so that's where that appreciation for the labor leaders to come in and to share their perspective, us to share ours, and then try to find where are we, how are we going to do this together?
Another one is, and this is, I've been receiving a number of emails, but more than that, a lot of people have been stopping me in the coffee shop because there's a lot of angst and confusion around the RIF process and replacement process at the secondary level. And I was wondering if you could explain how this process works and why it's more difficult than at the elementary level.
Let's see. So there's a couple factors with that. One is the schedules at an elementary school are a little more consistent in terms of you're typically assigned to your second grade teacher and you stay with that teacher. There's specialists and music and things like that, but not nearly as complicated as a middle school with 7 periods where you're rotating to different teachers. So that's one layer of it. The other layer of that is the way our state does certification or the requirements that are needed to teach. That typically it's a K-8 type of endorsement or something similar to that that allows you to teach any class in elementary. And when you get to the secondary level, it's very specific to the courses that you're teaching. And so looking at each staff member's individual certification and what they can and can't teach is a part of the puzzle at the secondary level, and then compounded by a schedule that's pretty diverse in its offerings.
And finally, and I know this is one that the board has really had its own heartache over. So why did the RIFs appear to affect the schools that serve our historically marginalized schools the most?
Yeah, when we're looking at the reduction in force process for certificated staff, it's largely based initially on the years of experience that you have in our school district and the state. And so when we look at that, we do have more staff members with less experience at some of those schools that you identified. And so in the initial round, when those first notices were made, they were made to staff members that had what's called a provisional status in their contract, which is 1, 2, or 3 years basically of the being in a provisional contract. And so that did disproportionately affect some of our schools. And then in that recall process, we looked at the staffing as a whole and the student numbers at each school, and then had to redistribute that staff to make sure that there was an equitable distribution of staff to students across the district.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I just wanted to thank Dr. Snell for that. It's been, I think to your point, a collaborative process over the last 2 months, and I appreciate everyone's work on it. We receive a lot of communication from the community, impacted staff and students and alumni and parents, and it's heartbreaking to read because every single appeal we can connect with and understand, and we know that these reductions are terrible and traumatic for some, and they're going to be felt by our students for sure. next year. I will also say, though, there is power in the amount of advocacy we have in our district, just the amount of voice we have. To hear from alumni that are recent graduates, I mean, that's really powerful that their experience and connection to our district makes them want to speak out on behalf of their beloved staff. So I guess just gratitude for the community and staying connected, and we welcome more concerns and feedback because we definitely we want to continue working together to work through this. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for hanging in there during that. If you're here for just recognition tonight, I appreciate your attention. I'm happy to follow up with questions too. But we are at the recognition part of our meeting. And so I'm going to head to the podium and we're going to start calling some folks up and talk about the amazing work that you are doing.
So first, we're going to do the Employee Excellence Awards, and then we're going to do some additional recognitions, a lot of students tonight. I'm going to go ahead and just give instructions for all of it so we can keep this moving. So Superintendent Snell will read the name of each staff member and a short description of why the employee has been chosen to receive the award. If you are being recognized, please walk to the podium so we may present you with your certificate or plaque. Then pause in front of the backdrop for an individual photo. Once all names in your award group have been read, Superintendent Jeff Snell and myself will join you for a group photo. And you may leave after the group photo, just do so quietly so we can continue with the meeting. For the student recognitions, if you're being recognized, again, walk to the podium, receive your award, and we'll pose for a photo. And then once all the names have been read, we'll join for a group photo. If you, again, leave quietly if you're going to do so we can keep moving. Okay. So go ahead with the employee excellence.
Okay,
Awards.
well, this is a highlight of every meeting that we have. And so we have a group of employees that were selected by a committee of their peers for commitment to the students and staff of Vancouver Public Schools. And these recipients were among the many outstanding nominees who create a caring environment and positive workplace through their exceptional efforts. If you want to think about nominating somebody, there's on our district website, you can access that, and we'd encourage you to do so. Our first recipient is Julie Foley. Julie, could you come forward? Julie is an incredibly helpful and thoughtful counseling center clerk at Fort Vancouver High School. She is a bright light for staff and students, always taking the time to make those around her feel comfortable and supported. Julie takes the initiative to handle logistical tasks and makes an extra effort to find answers to questions for other staff. One nominator shares Julie is beyond deserving of this award, and her work does not go unnoticed. Congratulations, Julie. Oh, here she comes. Keeping this on. Thank you. Thank you. Everything. Thank you. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Our next award winner is Karina Kelly. Karina is a dedicated teacher at Thomas Jefferson Middle School. She is a tireless supporter of students. In addition to supporting students in her classroom, she takes on many leadership roles in the school. Karina is an avid lead teacher and co-leader of the site-based leadership team, as well as coordinating intramural programs and supporting Thursday school. Additionally, she is an appreciated colleague who works closely with her peers. Thank you, Karina. Can we welcome and congratulate Karina? And I have to say that Karina was in my geometry class when I taught at Fort. And so it's very special for me to present this to her. I knew that she was going to do great things even then as probably a 14-year-old, but to see the impact that she's making is pretty special. So congratulations. Sorry about that. No, no, it's fine. Our next award winner is Sarah Molyneux. She is a remarkable special education teacher at Geyser Middle School who is dedicated to creating a positive and inclusive learning environment for students with diverse needs. She tailors her teaching methods to each student and fosters trust and security in her classroom. Sarah has an impact beyond academics. She helps her students develop life skills and a love of learning that will carry them well beyond their time in her classroom. Thank you, Sarah. Can we congratulate her? Next, we have Connor Oldfield. Connor is an outstanding technical support employee who helps colleagues throughout VPS. His commitment to going above and beyond to help others, along with his positive attitude and ability to stay calm under pressure, is an inspiration for the employees he supports. One nominator shared, Connor is always kind and helps me with a smile and lots of empathy. Thank you, Connor. Can we congratulate Connor? I'm not seeing Connor, so we'll make sure he gets that. Next, we have Amelia Radford. Amelia is a longtime cafeteria assistant at Franklin Elementary who is especially kind to students. She gets to know their names, becomes familiar with their allergies, and creates a festive environment for school menus. Amy also goes above and beyond for our Kindness Week by coordinating programs such as the recent donation of 400 cereal boxes to Franklin to be given to the Vancouver Foundation Pantry. One nominator shares, I can't think of anyone more deserving of this award. Thank you, Amelia. If you haven't ever seen 400 cereal boxes at Franklin, it's an annual, it's a lot. And it ended up at 700. Wow. So it's a lot of cereal boxes. Right up in the box. Congratulations. And then we'll do a group picture. And now we're to our student recognitions. The National Center for Women in Informational Technology is the farthest reaching network of change leaders focused on advancing innovation by correcting underrepresentation in computing. Please join me in congratulating Simi Sen, a Skyview High School senior, on being selected as an NCWIT National Award recipient. Simi is one of only 40 students nationwide out of 9,000 in consideration who received this honor, and the only student from Oregon and Southwest Washington to receive the award. We all want to wish her very well as she begins college at Stanford University this fall. Please congratulate Simi. We also, under the same organization, have congratulations to Suki Muhammadi and Kim Fan from Skyview High School on being selected as a National Center for Women in Informational Technology Regional Award recipient. Can we have them come forward and recognize them? And a special thanks is Kim Hansen here, the advisor. Kim, could you come forward too and be recognized? And we want to do a group photo with all of you guys. Congratulations. Thank you. Our next group of student award winners are from the DECA competition, which is an amazing opportunity for our students. DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs for careers in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management in high schools and colleges around the globe. Please join me in congratulating the Business Growth Plan team that won first place at the state conference and fifth place at the international conference. Waleed Chaudhry, Ian Kim, and Elias Patel. If you could come forward, please. Congratulations. Congratulations also to the SBE food team of Danica Harrison and Cassidy Loper for their fifth place finish at the Washington State Conference. And then also special thanks to Malia Miller and to Riley Gray for their support as advisors. So if you could come forward, we do a group photo. Thank you. Thank you. Students,
Really gonna have to squeeze, get everybody Is that good? Okay. Trying to do height. We're trying to switch. Yes, you guys are doing great. All right. And then I can actually have you open your certificate.
Oopsies.
That's okay. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, we are on to boys wrestling. And we have some individual award winners, and then we also have a team recognition. And so to begin with, please join me in congratulating state champions, Owen Pritchard, JJ Shaneline, and Mason DeRoche and Jonas DeRocher. Is it DeRocher? Thank you. Sorry. I was actually called the school to make sure, and then I messed it up anyway. So if you guys could come forward and be recognized as state champions. Thank you. And we also had Tennyson Kurtz for his third place finish at the state wrestling tournament. Tennyson? No? Okay. Yeah. Congratulations. And next, I want to congratulate the Skyview High School wrestling team for their third place trophy at the Washington State tournament. And I'd like to invite Coach Thompson to introduce the team and just share any highlights from the season that he would like to.
That's not us. That's Coach Jeff.
Yeah, what's going on? Get that up. Sorry about that.
Hey, guys, come here. Hi, I'm Jeff Thompson. I've been at Skyview. Here, Levi. I've been coaching at Skyview since the creation of Skyview in 1997. This is Levi Cooper. He's our basically co-head coach. He's the one that does all the coaching. I'm a little too old and fragile to be on the mat anymore. So Levi does all the coaching with these kids. We had an incredible year. We had over 100 boys out for the team this year. We had 30 girls out for the team. The girls had 4 girls that qualified for the state tournament and 2 placers. Grace Page and Maddie Cardens placed for the girls. They took 6th and 8th, you know, which is awesome. So here is our, we had 7 guys qualify. Andrew Oreo, a senior. Andrew Oreo qualified. He's not here right now. Jackson McAtee, a sophomore. We have Gio Perez Garcia, who's a junior, who qualified. We have Kyler Nelson, who's a junior. Kyler made it to the state semis, ended up placing 6th at 132 pounds. Then we have our freshman. We have Jonas, I kind of set him up with DeRocher. DeRocher, you know, Jonas is down by 3 points with 20 seconds left in the finals match. Tossed the kid to his back for a 4-point win, for a 1-point win, 4-point throw. And then his brother had to step on the mat right after that, and he gutted out a 1-0 win. You know, so our 2 freshmen took first state champions. Then we got JJ Shaneline, our junior. JJ took 5th as his freshman year. He was a state champ last year, state champ again this year. He's got another year. He went and had a great tournament, 2-time state champ. Never had that at Skyview. He's got another year to go. And then we have our senior who's been around since the start for these guys. He didn't get a wrestle as a freshman because of COVID. Sorry, I'm rushing. He didn't get a wrestle as a freshman as COVID, took 3rd his sophomore year. He was a state finalist last year, came up a little short. This year, he crushed it with the state championship, didn't even break a sweat in the finals. So these guys took 3rd at state. We had 4 state champs from one school. That's the first time it's been, well, it's the only time it's been done for a 4A school. So we set a record. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of these guys, and these guys are champs, all of them.
Can I get a picture? Yeah.
Gio, get in here.
But it's gonna be kind of a squish, so get really jumpy.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. And look at you, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, guys, no head.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our last group is Skills USA, which is another great organization similar to DECA. And so students from Columbia River High School's broadcast team won Skills USA gold medal for video news production. Congratulations to the students on the production team. Talon Collins was the director, Connor Orr is the floor director, Taimi Siskinvanich. I'm sorry. And Jacob McManus were anchors. And so congratulations to you. And thank you so much to Advisor Janine Blackwell for all the support you offer these students. So if we could have those folks come up and be recognized. And for the second year in a row, the VSAA team won the first place medal at the Skills USA State Leadership and Competition Conference in Tacoma. Students in teams of 5 competed in a Knowledge Bowl style quiz game. Questions are read to the contestants, and they have 5 seconds to buzz in the answer. During the competition, 100 questions focused on the Skills USA frameworks of history, general academic knowledge, and current events. And so at this time, I'd like to congratulate and call forward Adelaide White, Brooklyn Kane, David Senior, Ruby Montoyo Reyes, Nicholas Campos, and Adrian Nelson. And also, if Advisor Ken Winkley is here for supporting these students. Can we congratulate them? Congratulations. I think this one is. And our last set of recognitions, I'm just making sure I'm not forgetting anybody. If somebody's in here and I missed you, there's a lot of pages, so please let me know. Several VPS students competed against high school students from across the state in the Skills USA State Leadership and Competition Conference. These students placed in their respective fields. So gold medal winners, Kaylee Richmond for job skills demonstration, Adelaide Waite for job interview, Ruby Montoya Reyes for community action plan, Yesidia Yeliana Marino for community action project, and Max Van Humissen for plumbing. Are any of those folks here today? Yes. Come on up. Congratulations. Gold medal. I'm going to see if any of the silver medalists, and then we can get a good. We also have congratulations to silver medal winner Ray Cabrera Soto for first aid and CPR. Is Ray here? Come on up, Ray. Congratulations. And also congratulations to bronze medal winner Kaylee Justice for baking and pastry arts. Is Kaylee here? Not today. We wish she was here with the baking stuff, right? And our special thanks go to the advisors, David Finney, Rebecca Angel, and Colleen Dunnigan for supporting the students. I know I saw Colleen here. I don't know if I saw David and Rebecca. Colleen, could you come forward? Thank you, getting the picture. So Colleen just reminded me that David and Rebecca and our students do the luncheon for the foundation on Thursday. So they are hard at work preparing for that. So probably why they're not able to join us this evening. But thank you all for taking the time to be here and to recognize these amazing students and staff. And this is a great point of the meeting to pause. If people are wanting to leave, they're welcome to kind of make that transition. And I'll turn it back over to you, Director Sproul.
Thank you. The next part of our meeting is our audience participation. This is where we do public comment. I'm going to go ahead and just read our standard script just so we have common expectations. Public comments is the time in our meeting where the board and administrative staff welcome comments from the public. If you would like to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now in the back of the room. You may continue to sign in at any point during the public comments portion of the meeting. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name and affiliation with the district for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make your remarks. When you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to the staff in the back of the boardroom. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, and the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on the publicly noticed agenda in advance, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. If follow-up action is necessary, we will ask the superintendent to work with the administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As a regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Speakers are also expected to be respectful. We ask that audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comments, whether you are in support or against. We recognize that there are diverse beliefs and feelings across our stakeholders in our district, but one thing that we have in common is that we all want to do what is best for our children. We are here. The board asks that personnel complaints be submitted in writing. Disruptive conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community, and thank you for your comments in advance. We're going to go ahead and start with those that signed up online, right here. So our Zoom public comments, it looks like Alana Simmons is the first person.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead and state your name and affiliation. You'll have 3 minutes when
Okay,
you start.
thank you. My name's Alana Simmons. I'm a parent of a child at Sarah J. Anderson Elementary. I'm the vice president of the PTA at Sarah J. Anderson, and I'm the parent of a preschool inclusion student at Marshall Elementary. Good evening. I'm here because I wanted to actually advocate on behalf of the dual language students with regards to the speech language pathologist services. Currently, there's only one speech language pathologist, SLP, in the district that speaks Spanish. My kids' first language is Spanish, and we are, well, trying to get the young one into the TK program at Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the fall. And currently the second grader is at the Sarah J. dual language program as well. He currently does have a speech language pathologist that speaks Spanish. This one, her name's Amanda Downing. She's great. However, my understanding is that she conducts most of her speech visits with the students that need speech services with English speakers, even though she's the only speech therapist that actually speaks Spanish. So what would be more equitable, especially when students would benefit from having a speech language therapist that actually speaks their language, Spanish, especially at the dual language programs, would be for her to spend all of her time with students that their first language is Spanish. Sorry, I'll shut the door. I can hear kiddos in the background. Anyway, so basically the issue is that in the fall, I spoke with the person over the SLPs, and she said that this SLP will be over the speech folks at Sarah J. Anderson, but she'll still be conducting most of the speech sessions in English with English speakers. And I think it would be a better equitable use of resources in order for her to actually have her time split between a few different schools and only work with the students that speak Spanish. Otherwise, a lot of those students aren't gaining the benefit when an English speaking speech therapist can address the English only students. What Amanda, when she raised that concern, was told was basically that this is too new of an idea for the district. They've never done it this way before, and therefore they're not going to do it. And I think that's a real negative way to look at something that's an equity concern when we have the resources. They just need to be actually allocated correctly to allow her to have a full caseload of Spanish speakers, not 60% English speakers and 40% Spanish speakers. So I'd appreciate if the board would look into this issue. The gal's name is Miss Ross. Jennifer Ross, I think, is the person over the SLPs, and perhaps with Jamie Phelps as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Wesley Van. And the next name, Jefferson, is Shannon Shambach.
Hello, my name is Wesley Van. I am going to stop my camera just to reduce the distraction. I have my students activities right now, and then I will be able to address them.
Go ahead and start when you're ready. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So today I'm currently speaking as a parent, a community member, and an educator. Vancouver Public Schools has been a part of my career as an educator for 15 years. Last year I found another job opportunity, but my 3 children remain students in VPS. I have a 7th grader. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I have a 7th grader at ITech and a 3rd and 1st grader at Franklin Elementary. And they have all had the opportunity to be a part of the Mandarin program at Franklin. I want to speak first to the sense of belonging my children have had as the race and identity is represented within the teaching staff at Franklin, and I'm very thankful for that in my children. My kids are able to see themselves in their teachers, and they know that there's a cultural connection between them, and that increases their sense of belonging and their pride to be who they are and how they show up at school each day. My oldest decided not to continue with the Mandarin program, and so the representation of diverse staff in the schools he chooses to be a part of now and will be a part of will change. The program is a choice, but I believe all students should be able to have mirrors and windows of who they are, no matter what school they attend within the district. VPS has been clear with words that they value the sense of belonging of their students. However, they have not quite matched the opportunity for action when there is words in current policy and commitment to students within our district vision and mission that our students should be represented amongst the staff. There has been an increase in current ongoings of macro and microaggressions, racist language, and incidents in the experience of our BIPOC students across the district, and many going unaddressed. There is an understanding and a call to action for BIPOC district staff to voice to the district that the dignity of our students are at stake. There is a lived experience that BIPOC educators have that are unmatched to others. I know that this might be hard to hear and uncomfortable, but the reality is that our BIPOC educators, because of their lived experiences, are willing to experience discomfort and advocate for our students. And when they encounter these negative experiences, like no other educator, everybody's intent is positive. But if you have not experienced racism yourself, it is very challenging for you to address it the same way some of our BIPOC staff can. Our students' identities and their voices be heard. It has been obviously, particularly from some of our student populations, that they recognize the value of our BIPOC educators, and they are knowing that their BIPOC educators are a positive impact to their school environment and experiences. I encourage the school board and district to re-examine how budget cuts to personnel are impacting the diversity of the current staff and representation of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last Zoom is Shannon Shamba.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and begin
Great,
when you're
great.
ready.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Snell. My name is Shannon Shamba, and I'm the equity coach for Evergreen Public Schools, a former special education and second grade teacher. And as a TOSA, I'm also a member of our union. Tonight, I'm here to talk about a critical issue that directly impacts the equity goals of both of our districts, VPS and EPS. It's the last in, first out seniority policy that's entrenched within our union contracts. This policy poses a persistent barrier to equity, disproportionately affecting teachers of color by consistently removing them from our classrooms. In 2022, 3 of my fellow equity specialists, 2 of whom are women of color, lost their jobs because of this policy. Since then, myself and many of my colleagues have been advocating for change. As a white woman, I cannot continue to quietly benefit from a system that disadvantages my BIPOC colleagues and ultimately our students. Repeatedly, our calls for change have been met with responses like, it's just not the right time for this policy shift yet from our union leadership. This reluctance has left me deep in my feelings about how often folks of color have been told to be patient in the face of glaring systemic inequities. We must move beyond business as usual and prioritize the urgent changes our students deserve. Research emphasizes the critical importance of retaining educators of color. Here are just a few statistics. Schools with higher numbers of Black and Hispanic teachers demonstrate greater representation of Black and Hispanic students in gifted programs. Exposure to just one same-race teacher during elementary school significantly reduces the high school dropout rate for economically disadvantaged Black male students by a staggering 39%. And finally, racially congruent classrooms where the teacher's race matches that of the students foster better student-teacher communication, higher levels of happiness, and increased motivation. Retaining diverse staff requires a comprehensive approach, including revising the language in our collective bargaining agreement to address the systemic inequities perpetuated by those blanket last in, first out policies. I've been inspired by Seattle and Portland Public Schools, where these proactive steps have already been taken to protect staff of color during budget constraints through their contract language. And our districts in Southwest Washington must follow suit. Our students and community are asking for and deserve a school system that reflects and supports them. So I urge this board, district, and union leadership to take decisive action on this issue now during contract negotiations. Doing so will not only positively impact VPS, but it will also pave the way for EPS to follow suit. Together, we can dismantle barriers to equity and create a more inclusive and supportive educational environment for all. Thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you very much. That concludes our Zoom public comments. I'm going to go ahead and go through the list of those that signed up in advance, starting with Kelsey Hudson. Just Jefferson, would you check if maybe accidentally it's Kelsey Hudson? Okay, we will move to Navon Morgan.
Hello, y'all hear me? All right. Hello, my name is Navon Morgan. I am here as a member of the community and an alumni of Fort Vancouver High School, class of 2019. I'm also, sorry, I'm also a current contractor for an outside organization working at Fort Vancouver High School. I'm here today alongside some truly inspiring young leaders who are using their voice to hopefully upend the status quo of racism and anti-Blackness that has shown itself to be more present than ever in our school community. As a contracted employee for a community partner in the building, I've seen firsthand multiple instances of intentional anti-Black hate speech directed towards students that I work to uplift. I've seen directly the pain that it causes our kids of color, and I've watched administrators choose to respond with passivity, indifference, in a moment when our Black students need defense and a champion. In the last 2 weeks alone, there's been so many moments of students coming and confiding in me, telling me stories about their painful experiences, being called everything in the classroom from monkeys to jigaboos, as teachers that they trusted sat silently. How do you explain to a child that someone wrote, excuse my language, ugly ass nigger on a picture of them and that there was nothing that you could do to help? We owe so much to these students, and I've seen time and time again them be failed by the people who claim that they don't have the tools to help, or that right now is not the right time, or that as a white staff member, well, I just don't know how to enforce this policy. So I'm here to say humbly and bring it to your attention that, we're in need of a solution in our school. And I want to highlight the work of Charlotte, our school's equity coach and specialist, whose job was taken without any consideration for the need for her work at Fort Vancouver. I can say without any question in my mind that this school will be lost without her doing this work next year, and it will be our Black students who feel the blunt of the racial violence that too often goes unchecked in the building. So many people say they're committed to equity when it's feasible, when it's the kind of word that can get you elected, but not when it's time to act on it. It's never too late to do the right thing, and it's surely never too late to do right by our students. Dr. Snell, the board, I urge you to do the right thing and do everything to address this issue. To my students who are here, I'm so proud of you. Charlotte, I'm so grateful for you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Treyon Clark.
Hello, my name's Tryon Clark. I'm a senior at Fort Vancouver High School, and I'm the vice president of Black Student Union. I'm here to speak to you today about the lack of accountability and response from the staff and administration at Fort Vancouver High School. Over the past month, countless racial issues have been brought to their attention, and each time these issues were not handled correctly. The most common solution they came up with was to sweep the issue under the rug. There was an incident where multiple posters created by a Black student were defaced. The student created posters to advertise a wellness and affinity group for young women that included a picture of herself. Another student, who's still unknown, came and wrote multiple slurs and pieces of harmful language over the picture of the student, including ugly ass nigger. This was reported on April 30th. The student whose posters were defaced wasn't informed of what happened until May 7th by the advisor of our Black Student Union, Navon Morgan. The student went to get more information about what happened from one of the administrators and was told that they were waiting for Charlotte Latte, the current equity coach at Fort, to get back and start finding a solution for the problem. When discussing this with Black Student Union members, one member asked the question, if the admin waited until Charlotte was available to find a solution, then what would they do when she's gone? Immediately when Charlotte returned, she began brainstorming possible solutions for this problem. For example, she started working on a policy that would essentially ban the use of the N-word, as well as making a better system for students to report racial incidents that happen in the school. As one of the most diverse schools in Vancouver, it's concerning how many racially motivated incidents have happened inside the school within the past month, which brings my concern even higher for schools that are less diverse. More than ever, our education system needs equity coaches inside of our schools. They embody a desperate need for change that administrators and other staff have failed to fulfill. Without people like Charlotte in our buildings, all of these atrocities will continue to go unchecked, and that's completely unacceptable. As a district who continually discusses the need for equity, this is an opportunity to act on those values and to take a stand against racism, homophobia, ableism, sexism, and any other hate speech that has taken place inside of our publicly funded schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Fatou Bourdiang.
Hello, my name is Fatou Bojang. I'm a sophomore at Fort Vancouver High School, also a co-president of BSU. I would like to speak on the social media incident that has really arose the racism in our school. There was a video posted on the Instagram where the girl who had posted it, she was very ignorant and tried to use her race as a backup to saying that she's not racist, which it does not matter who you are, you can be racist. To this day, she's still proud of what she had did, and anytime I see her on any of her social medias, she just keeps going. She's just not. She's not sincere about any of her apologies. I have so many screenshots of what her and her friends have said about the Black community at our school. This girl hasn't been sincere about any of her apologies. Every time she has said sorry, she would just keep going with more racism, especially with her friend who had said very disgusting things and hurtful things. It took me and everything in my power to not go off on her. Some of the things that she said were, and I quote, "And then you guys got offended, bruh, maybe because you guys act like hood people. The N-word is not funny, but the joke wasn't about you guys. Calm down, bruh, and maybe solve it like a behavior person and not like a monkey." Those were some of the highlights that she said, and some of her friends, which he said was, "Shut your monkey ass up, little nigga. Go jump off a fucking tree and eat some dildo bananas. Little bitch ass nigga, I'll fuck any of your homies up, so quit talking shit, bitch ass monkey." When we heard all these things, the frustration in all of our faces, things like this should not be acceptable.
and it should not be handled in this way.
Thank you. Relisha Lewis.
My name's Relisha Lewis, and I'm a sophomore at Fort Vancouver High School. I'm also the co-president of the Black Student Union. On Friday, April 26th, there was an incident where some students posted a TikTok with the N-word posted on the video. Some students from our school addressed the girls who posted the TikTok, and they proceeded to say microaggressions and racial slurs towards the girls, including calling them monkeys. It was brought to admin. It was brought to admin, and that day they pulled one of the girls who posted it and one of the girls who responded from class. That happened on a Friday. The Sunday after, an email was sent out to parents addressing the situation, but not talking about a solution for it. Then the Thursday following, May 2nd, staff held a focus group for Black students to share their feelings about the incident that happened on the 26th. And during the meeting, an admin proceeded to ask what they think we should do about the situation and how they should handle it. Monday, May 6th, Charlotte came back. Once she heard about all the things that happened and found out the admin hadn't done anything about it, she immediately found a solution. She started working on a new policy, and yesterday she presented it to the school. There was another incident where one of my current teachers said to me and two of my Black classmates that if he was in the car by himself and was listening to a song, he would say the N-word. The teacher never apologized, and when my classmate's mom went to admin about it, he said, let's not make this into something it's not. I say all this to say the admin at the school lack accountability and have failed to make sure all their students feel safe and make sure we feel like we're heard at the school. Devon, our BSU advisor, and Charlotte, our equity coach, have made the biggest difference this year. But I'm afraid without them, nothing would have been addressed or made a priority to the admin at Fort. Our school next year is going to go from having 6 Black staff to having 2, and no Black teachers. Do you know what it's like to walk into your school? You know what it's like to walk into your school while students are calling you the most racist things and have your teachers say them as well? Probably not. Racism does happen at Fort Vancouver High School, and our admin doesn't know how to handle it.
Thank you. Favor Roberts? Okay, if she wants to return, she's welcome to. Promise Milner? Okay, we'll revisit. Chris Smith?
I think I'm going to withdraw my statements for today.
Thank you. Shauna McClellan?
Hi, my name is Shannon McClelland. I am here on a different reason, but I'm just going to speak quickly so others can have a say. I'm a teacher at Roosevelt Elementary, and I'd like to request that the board not approve, sorry, I put my glasses on, the district selection of our candidate, of the candidate to replace her principal for the 2024-25 school year until you've reviewed our staff community survey results. As a school community, we resoundingly requested our current associate principal be selected as our new principal. Please review her resume, the individual selected resume, and our survey results for what we, the staff at Roosevelt, wanted what is best for our students and our next leader. Our associate principal exemplifies all of these qualities. She has been with us for the past 4 years, speaks Spanish, and is who we need to lead us. The candidate the district selected does not have dual languages school experience, and our AP has a proven record and is highly respected by our staff, by the students, and the families and the communities. We hope that you take the time to review these things. We don't feel this was an equitable decision and certainly does not create a sense of belonging that is touted by our superintendent and his cabinet. Thank you for your time and your support in this matter.
Thank you. For any of the students that just returned, if you'd like to speak and you were out when I called your name, Favor Roberts or Promise Milner. Okay. Thank you. Linda Freeland.
I really don't want to dilute what we just heard. I've been a paraeducator for a lot of years, like 10 years, and a clerk for 2.5 years. And I've seen a lot of racism. I've spoken up, and I can verify that admin doesn't know how to deal with these things. So I think we should really make that a priority. We have no business letting go any teachers of color, regardless of contractual agreements. Perhaps that could be bargained with labor leaders so that we can represent all of our students. Because that's really what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Anderson.
Thank you for taking the time to hear these voices from the community. So I grew up in Vancouver. I'm an alum of the Vancouver School District for K through 12. I taught in the district for 21 years, and I'm a parent of a student at VSA. I also have several members of my extended family who all come from a teacher's background. And I was here to talk a little bit about the budget concerns, but I just want to take a moment and also echo what previous speakers have said about the importance of not diluting the messages from the courageous young people that we just heard from and the other folks who've spoken up on this issue. I've seen, to the extent that I've been able to, with my own eyes, how our community has a long way to go with a history of systemic racism and the way it affects our most vulnerable ethnic minorities in this district. And even though I came here tonight to talk about the importance of protecting programs, I think it's equally important to speak up for the mission of equity, like genuine equity in our district. And that means people taking risks to have difficult conversations that they don't want to have, and do a lot of listening to the folks who have suffered the most in our district, going back decades. And there's a lot of people who have moved to this community, not like me, and they may not know that our region has such a strong history of racism. redlining. We had a Ku Klux Klan here. And these are things that I didn't learn in my history classes, but it's essential for us to have conversations about the things that are causing and continue to cause so much pain that is entirely unnecessary in our district. We need to make better progress on this. And one of the ways that we can do that is to retain staff of color. As a teacher in the district for 21 years, I rarely had Black colleagues. And I know of a few opportunities where admin or the union could have stepped up to make Vancouver Public Schools a more attractive place for teachers of color, because the kids desperately need to see diversity. They need to hear alternative perspectives of history and literature and the arts. And these kinds of things are vital to the health of our community. And if we don't prioritize them, we continue to just fail. So even though I came here to talk about budget tonight, I think that the message that you heard earlier shouldn't be diluted. It needs to be something that you take home
Thank you.
and
Thank you
and
very
really
much.
think carefully about. Thank you for your time.
Heather Vian.
My name is Heather Vian. I'm mother. I live in the school district of Vancouver School District. And I want to apologize. I didn't do any of that to any of you, and I am so sorry that that is going on in our community, and it should stop. I took my kids out of the public school system too, because our kids are angry and they're causing harm to each other. They're not being kind to one another. They're not getting to know anybody that's different or diverse from them. They're and I was encouraged earlier today when finally we heard from the staff advisory committee, and there is talks about next year and what to do moving forward. I feel like when the budgets first came, there was a lot of blaming fingers and pointing fingers at different people. But I feel like there might be some kind of common ground that people can actually come together and move forward in the new year with the less staff and the more students. And it comes down to building relationships. So I'm really glad that there's some that I'm hearing that we want to build relationships within our community that are positive, that are encouraging, that are lifting everyone up, that are strengthening one another. And I want to hear more good news from this team, especially coming in the new year. I want to hear more good news. That's it.
Thank you. John Gerard.
John Gerard. I own Quail Homes. My three sons went through Fort Vancouver High School. I coached there, supported there for about 15 years, and it's very troubling to hear what I heard tonight. Didn't know if I really wanted to go on and kind of just leave it at that, but I've decided I'm going to talk about some good things. One of them is at Fort, and I'll finish with that. We are in the midst of a As Dr. Snell says, a renaissance with the construction programs, not just here within the district, but across Southwest Washington. One of my goals is to get kids working with their hands, get them job ready. And this is something that will help all of this stuff, is that we got to get them working on positive things, and we are. So just a couple of highlights. We had a groundbreaking for the Endeavor Technical Trade School at Hudson's Bay. It's basically a building to teach home building skills. Groundbreaking was roughly a week ago. I can't remember the exact date. But the bottom line is we'll be starting to build that here shortly. The greenhouses are going to get moved. If anybody's been to the plant sale, the building's going to go back there. This toolbox that you see right here, this is an outreach with the high schools and elementary schools. Our first one was last year with Hudson's Bay and Washington Elementary. We did 40. This year, 3 elementary schools, 3 high schools, Chinook, Eisenhower, Washington, Bay, River, and Skyview participated. Probably 260 of these. When you see students engaged, not on their phones, actually making something, it's positive. And what was kind of fun about the outcome is River decided to do their staff meeting, and there was a vote. Some 4th graders were better at assembling them than some of the staff. Next year, we'll be adding Fort with an elementary school as well. Forecasting for next year, just to show you kind of this momentum that we have, there will be over 400 students in construction classes. Some of them will be getting geometry and math credits while they do this. Last thing I'd like to talk about is Fort will be adding a program next year. So all 4 high schools will have a program of construction. And what that means is we can engage employers with these students. I had an event was on May 1st. It's the first annual that I put on and funded, where we matched construction students at a lunch at Royal Oaks. They enjoyed prime rib lunch, and they had a speed dating event with 25 of the top employers. We set 175 to 200 appointments for job interviews, and the very first student hired was a Vancouver student at $24 an hour within 24 hours of the event. So far, 4 students have been hired in Vancouver School District, and we expect more success next time I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Taylor.
My name is Jean Taylor, and my husband and I live in this district. And I'm here as a community member who wants the best for our kids. And I was going to speak about the DEI curriculum. But like a number of other folks, I think that might be postponed to another time so that the impact of what was shared earlier is not diluted. I think, though, as you consider what to do in the fall, that there are certain aspects of diversity and equity that are very valuable, and some that isn't, some that would impact these students negatively. I believe that there were some students that shared at the last meeting about how they had mentors and teachers here who had impacted them so positively that they felt like they could just be. They could be who they were. They could be accepted for who they were. And I think that's part of what we heard tonight, the exact opposite of that. And my concern in some of the DEI curriculum is that who we are can change. that these students 5 or 10 years down the road might be coming back and saying, wait a minute. Some of that curriculum encourages things like transitioning. For children. And that's, again, that's the bottom line of my concern. It's one thing for a teen or an older student to make those decisions, but it's another for a child to, and to end up later in life with consequences they don't want to face. I'm a member of a group called Changed. It's a worldwide community of folks who were once identified as LGBTQ, but no longer because of the impact of honestly Jesus Christ in our lives. And one of them asked, "Is there a man who would marry a woman who has had the effects of testosterone injections?" That there's facial hair requiring regular shaving, there's baldness, there's things like that that are not comfortable to talk about, but what are we influencing our children toward?
Thank you. Next, we have Clarissa Hightower.
Good evening. My name is Clarissa Hightower. I am a community member for Vancouver. I serve on 2 nonprofit organizations as their as the board of director, and we provide direct service to VPS community members. I know for sure that VPS leadership can do hard things, and they have. I had the pleasure of seeing it with my own eyes last night as 15+ teachers of color completed a leadership program towards their admin licensure in partnership between VPS and WSU. It confirmed for me the power of true collaboration and commitment to supporting and retaining diverse staff that VPS holds. I also want to share a quote with you from a student who I had the pleasure of working with as the Executive Director of Equity and Inclusion for Evergreen Public Schools. She says, "I just wish the adults could get it together long enough to see that while they argue, we wait. Students wait. We wait to be seen and heard, and if we wait too long, you will lose us." Our students' behavior is communication. They're reaching out. Their testimony here at this podium is communication. And based on those testimonies, they are communicating to us a specific need. And instead of listening to our students, the voices of the very people we are committed to supporting, we give them excuses and we quote procedures and traditional ways of doing things and why we cannot and we will not give them the specific support they're asking for. Knowing that we, the adults, have the ability to change those procedures and create new traditions. Our students want more diverse teaching staff. And to do that, we must start by retaining the few we have, including one who was mentioned this evening, Charlotte Larte. Just over the river in Portland Public Schools and in several other districts, they have language in their contracts to prevent the disproportionate impact that RIFs have on diverse staff. I sincerely urge both VPS leadership and VEA leadership to work together to craft language that retains a diverse staff in VPS schools. Both VEA and VPS leadership have shared their commitment to equity and their understanding of the importance of retaining diverse staff. But our students don't have a union, nor do they have seats at the decision-making table. And so they count on us to act in their best interests. As leaders, we have a choice. We can choose to continue to uphold the status quo and the procedures that are counterproductive to the goals and values we publicly commit to, or we can choose to do something different. Please, let's do something different ASAP, because our students are counting on us and they are tired of waiting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Charlotte Latte.
Good evening. I am Charlotte Latte. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a community member and I am the equity instructional coach at Fort Vancouver High. And it's been a lot the past couple weeks. It's been a lot. I am speaking to elevate the voices of our students. They are speaking here because they have not been heard. What they have shared tonight, I have heard. Our admin have heard, and it is not a lack of care in our school that we haven't changed faster. It is a lack of skill and capacity. And my job as an equity and instructional coach is to assess the climate and the culture and to make recommendations for what we need to do to address it. And I was in DC lobbying for more education funding. You're welcome, everybody. And while I was gone, there were 3, 4, 5 incidences of racism. And when I came back, they continued. And to address what's going on in our school has been a matter of urgency. There have been sleepless nights. As you've heard from our students, they are not okay. I have to be able to look at them and say that this is not going to happen to you again. And we cannot say that right now. We are doing everything we can as a school to create the conditions where that kind of behavior is not acceptable, but it's taking time. And it's going to take more time than I have with my job being eliminated in a month. And I think that's been what's so frustrating is that the board passed the budget. And I heard you say the budget cuts were made to reflect the community, but there's a certain community that has been neglected and left out, and that is the Black community. And you had an opportunity to decide which positions should be protected, and you could have protected diverse staff at our highest diverse schools. You could have place parameters that would make sure that there would not be more historic underrepresentation. This is also historical when schools were segregated and then they were integrated and the Black students were bused to school and the Black educators were pushed out. And so this is repeating the history of underrepresentation. It should not come as a surprise that this happened. We knew this was going to happen. I think our union knew it was going to happen. The district knew it was going to happen, but neither party did anything about it. And now here we are. How are you going to make this right for our Black students and community? Understanding the stakes that you've heard tonight. The stakes are very high. How will you make it right? Thank you.
Thank you. Dimitri Stoyanov.
Evening, my name is Dimitri. I have 2 kids that go to Vancouver Public Schools. I just want to say that it's a choice to have administration that doesn't know how to deal with racism. It's a choice. It's a choice that we're not prioritizing the safety of all of our students. It's a choice that we can make differently. But I came to talk about the budget. I got 3 questions. In regards to the recently announced budget cuts to our educators, the central office, my number's a little off here, please forgive me. But I believe the central office took 50% of the cuts, while the educators who directly serve the students took the other 50%. I've heard from teachers that they want more transparency about these cuts. So my question is, can you release more detailed info about that decision to take 50% of the cuts to the educators who directly serve the students? Number 2, also in regards to transparency, I believe the original budget projections for the 2023-24 school year were made over a year ago. Are these the same numbers being used for the current cuts? Has the budget projections changed over the last year? I think I saw that, there's 170 workers being cut. So my big question here is, are those numbers likely to grow as the budget's updated? And when can we know about those additional cuts? Number three, I'm just asking questions about transparency in here and trying to advocate for the teachers who on a day-to-day basis advocate for our students, my kids. It's a key question because I'm trying to figure out how you guys are triaging your cuts. These cuts will greatly increase class sizes. In the elementary schools, we have class sizes for 4th and 5th graders or we have whole classes of 4th and 5th graders who are behind in reading. So these cuts will directly affect the literacy rates of my children and children all throughout the district that you already have the numbers on that have been directly affected over the last couple of years. Reductions have been made at Family Community Resource Center at Fruit Valley, Houck, Jason Lee, Heights Campus, and Jim Tangleman Center. Cuts are being made to classified staffing, paraeducators. I mean, these are just to name a few. So, just to reiterate here, I'm trying to understand, how are we equitably using the money we have? How is it that you're deciding how to take some of the money and spend it on administration versus getting it directly to the kids? Can you release more detailed information about these cuts so we can better understand them? Will you announce cuts grow when you release, or will the announced cuts grow when you release the numbers? And can you release info on how you are making these cuts equitably?
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry you're.
Yeah,
throwing
that's
this
fine.
out.
Parents want to know why you are prioritizing.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I do. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to email the board. Megan Formo.
Hi, I'm Megan Formel. I'm a first grade teacher at Sarah J. Anderson in the dual language program. And before I read the statement that I prepared to read into the record, I want to say, yeah, it is always the right time. We have an entirely open contract. It's always the right time to build in supports, to promote diversity so that our students see themselves reflected in the adults in their building. But I also wanted to have read into the record that queer people are everywhere in the Vancouver Public Schools community, and we belong here. To my queer colleagues, we belong here, and I am so glad that you are here with me. To our queer families, you belong here. I'm so glad you're here, and thank you for trusting us with your kids. And to our queer kids, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you are still here. You belong here, and I want you to know that queer kids do grow up to become happy queer adults. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to circle back. A few people deferred speaking or weren't present. Favor Roberts or Promise Milner, or Chris, if you wanted to go back up. I just want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to be heard. Okay. That concludes the audience participation program. Thank you, or part of the meeting, sorry. Thank you everyone for sharing. We are moving into our regular business portion of the agenda. We're starting with the approval of minutes.
I wonder if we might change the agenda just a little to go to board comments, because I know people are leaving, and I'm guessing that board members may just want to share a little something. So I'm sorry if I.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that second suggestion. Does anyone have a motion to adjust the agenda?
I motion to adjust.
I'll second.
Okay, we will go into the board of director comments. Does anyone have any? Tonight was very heavy, and we had a lot of brave people sharing. Does anyone?
I just want to thank the students, if any of them are still here, for speaking out tonight.
and for the adults that have supported them in speaking out.
And I would like to thank so much the adults that have been supporting these students through this, not just this incident, because we know this isn't the only time that this has happened. But as it was mentioned before, it's been a tough couple of weeks. And what I really want to thank the adults for is encouraging the students to come and advocate for themselves. It's the next level up from being a victim to being an advocate. And the students came back. And adults, thank you so much for encouraging them to come and speak on their own behalf, because that makes, I know it's hard, but that makes such an impact on as we make further decisions and as we discuss where we're falling short and how we can fix that. Without your voice, we don't know everything. And you've helped us to understand something that we were unaware of. So thank you for risking that.
I just want to thank you for your bravery. It takes a lot to come up here, and to Director Decker's point, sometimes as we grapple with decisions and policy and having the student voice and having your faces and your names and your stories, that's really impactful for our work. And to the adult supporters, thank you. I think you've given us a good call to action, and there's work to be done. So thank you very much for sharing tonight.
I'm just going to reiterate all that's already been said and just thank you for coming out and being brave and sharing. I think it's not just the public comment, but also the emails and the messages that we get, that it's really important for us to be able to understand all of the various impacts of these budget cuts in all the different ways, and all the different buildings and all the different grade levels and the different types of students that are being impacted. To be able to know the real consequences of the decisions we're making, it's really important for us to hear that. So I really appreciate you guys coming out and sharing. And it wasn't easy. It's not easy to hear either, but it's important for us to hear. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you for your bravery. I hate that we have to share our lived experiences for others to learn. I hate that this is happening. I know that it happens every day. And so I hear you and I see you, and I'm here for you. I want to do more, so please reach out. Tell me how I can do more. Thank you.
Thank you again to all who shared tonight. So now we are going to move into our regular business meeting. Just as a reminder for those that are still here, these are items we discuss at the prior month's committee of the whole. Most of these are consent agenda items. We're going to start with the approval of minutes from the April 9th, April 16th, and April 23rd meetings. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we will vote. Director Zavala?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Barrows?
Approve.
And I also approve. Next, we have our consent agenda. This includes both fiscal and instructional administrative support services. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have any comments or questions? Okay, Director Barrows?
Approve.
Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
Director Zavala?
Approve.
And I also approve. Next, we have in our regular business, we have a recommendation to conduct a first reading to adopt policy 2110 for transitional bilingual instructional programs.
Thank you, Director Spoll. So policy 2110 is our transitional bilingual instructional program policy. We are revising it to incorporate the district's dual language programming that has existed. The revisions to the policy also identify the purpose of our dual language programming, its relationship to the district's transitional bilingual instructional program, and the connection of both that TBIP program and dual language programming to our district's equity policy. And finally, we're recommending that the policy be renamed to the multilingual educational program to reflect this broader scope and the purpose of the policy.
As this is a first reading, we're not taking action. Are there any comments or questions for Taylor? Okay, there will be more opportunity before we bring it back for action next month. And everything else, sorry, it's our annual highly capable report. And
I'd like to invite Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Christy Lidholm, forward. We are obligated by the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction to do an annual highly capable report. There's no action required on it, but there is a compliance piece to share this information with you. As you know, this is in general just best practice as well. And Christy and team have done a great job of looking at the program as a whole and following some recommendations that you've made over the last couple of years. So I know that she wants to update you on that and answer any questions that you might have and probably highlight some staff members as well. So.
Thank you. That is the first thing I want to do. Actually, Jennifer Brown-Sanders is our fabulous lead on our HiCap program. She's been working with us for the last 2 years to take a look at what were current practices and help us move into a new era of serving kids with diverse learning needs. So tonight I get to talk a little bit about the work that the district has been doing and that Jennifer and her fearless partner in crime, Julie Cal, have been leading. So if you'll flip to the agenda, these are the topics that we are not only required to tell you about, but that we're super interested in and happy to report. So we'll take a look at demographics, what we're working on, how we're going about it, and what's upcoming for us in the years to come. So the next slide rather, is on, I meant to tell you to bring your clicky and then I wouldn't have to keep saying slide. But this is district demographics, racial demographics, ethnic demographics for our student population overall compared to our identified HiCap students. And what is important to see now, oh, here comes a clicky. That's exciting, thank you. What we want to point out here is that there's a discrepancy still in getting more proportional, particularly with our Hispanic students. We'll talk a little bit about what we're doing to catch us up here. We've made already progress this year in eliminating or reducing some of the disproportionality, but this is a big piece of our work. We also have some disproportionality in gender. Female students are identified and in the past referred less frequently than male students. I almost said men, but we're not there yet. We did open this year an intensive HiCap class, 2 classes at Truman Elementary. And what we found interesting and are still curious about is that for every 6 female invitations of qualified students that we invited to come, only 1 family would accept, where when we invite, the same was not true for males. For every 3 families invited, we got 1 male acceptance. So we're kind of curious about what that means for our female students, what that means for their families, kind of what's on their mind as we offer them more tailored services. So it's something we're investigating.
We also see a discrepancy with our multilingual students, and we're not yet identifying them at the same rate as our English-only student population. And we see some similar trends with special programs as well. All this seems kind of doom and gloomy, but we are actually making progress this year, which is exciting. So in the next coming years, we should see some of these bar graphs begin to move. So here in particular, we want to see increased identification and service provision for multilingual learners, for students with IEPs, and for students who receive free and reduced lunch. Interestingly, students with 504 plans are already identified and served at a higher rate. Oh yes, this one's animated. So these are on the left here, you'll see strategies national research suggests are ways to diversify and increase the types of students that we are serving in the program. And we have made a very intentional shift away from working with high achieving students to working with students who demonstrate high ability. And so as we make that shift, we're trying to follow the national research. The first thing we've implemented is universal screening in grades 2 through 5. We're using an exam called the Naglieri, which is mostly visual spatial, low verbal ability needed to be able to show your giftedness or highly capable attributes. So that this is our first year. We're just finishing up our round with second graders, and the MDSC team will be moving to take a look at all the kids who are potentially qualified, and we'll be paying particular attention to multilingual students, females, kids who might receive free and reduced lunch, who might have an IEP, to make sure that they're getting a second look and a real fair shake before we qualify or don't qualify them. We are using local norms for ability testing. So that means that when we get our results back, we look at results by high school feeder pattern to see what the trends are. So we're trying to compare like scores to like experiences and like situations for kids. We are not yet able to do that. You'll see we skipped the one for achievement testing. We haven't quite gotten there with using iReady scores. Part of the reason is we don't have enough data in that realm that we can do this equitably. So we're still working on that. We're moving into single subject identification right now, and until in about a week, we've identified you're either highly capable or not. And we didn't really look at the area. Now we're going to be looking at, well, you might be highly capable across the board, or you might be showing a lot of skills and aptitude in math, or maybe language arts. In the future, we hope to include artistic and creative abilities as well, so that we're scooping an even more diverse group of kids. We'll be working on this with our newly identified second graders. And then we want to try a new young scholar pilot. So we already have one school on board. We're looking for one more school, and I'll talk a little bit about this in just a sec. So these are our goals restated. So increased racial proportionality, increased proportionality of kids in special programs that we talked about, and then also multilingual students. And here's some of our strategies. So we're using the Naglieri that I just talked about. We're looking at single subject identification to be able to not only identify more kids, but to, as they matriculate into secondary, to more accurately matriculate them or forecast them into classes that they are more likely to do well in and stick with. Right now, if you're high cap, you automatically go into honors this and high, the higher, not higher, but the accelerated math track. If you're not a math kid and you get put into accelerated math just because you have the designation, that may not be your cup of tea. So we want to actually have these conversations with students and parents and making sure we're making good matches there. And then the young scholars pilot, and here's what this is. We'll be looking to identify kids in kindergarten first and sometimes in second grade, although we are doing testing in second grade to catch those kids. But looking to see what kids are shining as having a lot of aptitude. How could we scoop them up, pay attention to them? We're not necessarily identifying them yet, but we're keeping track of them. We're seeing where their aptitude lies, what they're interested in. And with this pilot, we would be looking to provide them one grade level higher instruction throughout the week in a particular subject area. We'll have to work with the school and the teacher for that. And our goal is to see if we can capture those kids early and if we're identifying them correctly, or it's basically to line up our early scooping and the identification testing that we're doing. What we have found in the past is that when kids are identified as early as kindergarten, they may be identified as highly capable, but perhaps erroneously. Maybe they're just early readers, or maybe they're just super verbal, but that may not pay out through the rest of their careers. So trying to dial in, how do we really get this program to help kids who have specific learning needs that are not necessarily met in a regular classroom or with regular instructional techniques. These are some of the things that we are up to. We're continuing our discussion around cluster grouping. I think we've talked about most of the others, but you can see what we're doing. We're also involving teachers as a secondary measure when we look at the Naglieri results, this analysis of TABS rating scale. We're asking teachers about kids' aptitudes, about their behaviors as a way to also see whether or not we're being accurate. I think it kicked me off, Dr. Snow. Can you give me the last slide? So these are the next 3 years that we have lined up. We've really been focusing these last 2 years on elementary work. We know we need to get to secondary to look at matriculation from elementary to middle and middle to high school to be able to better record how we're serving those kids and their needs. We've talked about, can we open up a dual language intensive high cap class? Is there a need for that? So a lot of it is tracking our success with what we're implementing and then seeing what the need calls for and what we'll be up to next. So that is it. I wondered if you had any questions. I know we've gotten to talk about this a few times through the year.
Thank you for the update. I'm really excited for the single subject identification. I think that's going to be a good opportunity for kiddos. I'm also interested in learning more, and I know that's further down in your plan, but the creative arts, I think that was something that was new that I hadn't heard yet before.
First, I want to thank you for all your work and your team's work. I know that you'd like to let everybody else in on the thank yous.
You got it.
I know when you present it, it's, you present it in 10 minutes and then we, think that's it. But I know there's been a ton of work done on this and continue to do a ton of work on this. And I really, really appreciate your perspective on these are kids that learn differently. And just like any other kid that learns differently, we need to help them become successful. And also your recognition that we are missing kids because we have a picture in our head that's been kind of placed there as to what high cap looks like and sounds like and does. And the research shows us that that picture is wholly inadequate. So I appreciate that you keep pushing that picture out and putting a new one in. So
Well,
thank you so
That's
much.
that's part of our PD plan coming up, is to work with teachers on expanding their idea of what a high cap profile or a high cap student might look like, because they're not always as you might think. I think I'm wrapping us up
Yeah,
here.
thank you very much. That concludes our business items for this evening. There is no executive session tonight, so our meeting is adjourned.
I'm the change whose
Thank you.